Desde las sombras de Palacio Nacional.
Even to the muddy trenches of politics. That is, the pigsty, the filthy pig pen of politics.
Greetings, my little pigs, inhabitants of this muddy place called Mexico. Come on in, make yourselves comfortable in your favorite spot, and get ready. Because today the stench coming from San Lázaro is stronger than usual. Welcome to another episode of La Posilga, the pigsty of politics, where we don't clean up politicians' images. In fact, we do the exact opposite. Here we rub their miserable faces in the dirt so you can see what these fine specimens of our national fauna are really made of. Today we woke up with a bitter taste of a poorly staged play, a fifth-rate operetta they're trying to sell us as democracy. I'm your untrustworthy communicator, the straightest pig, Luis Berman, and I'm going to explain how they're going to stick it to us. Plan B. Put on your gas mask because we're going to dive right into this stench. Hold on because the pigsty is on fire. Let's begin. Let's go to the rat show, which could also be called the chronicle of a failure or a setup. In San Lázaro. Yesterday, March 11th, we witnessed how our representatives, the ones you and I support with caviar while we eat whatever we can, they gathered at the Chamber of Deputies to stage the burial of the electoral reform. What a tragedy. What a shame. The qualified majority slipped through their fingers like soap in a prison shower. It turns out that Morena didn't have the numbers. They needed 2/3 of the votes to to amend the Constitution, and, oh surprise, the opposition bloc, the Partido Acción Nacional, the Partido Revolucionario Institucional, and the guys from Movimiento Ciudadano decided that yesterday was not the day to let themselves be pushed around. But what really makes us burst out laughing in this pigsty isn't the opposition's resistance. We know they're just protecting their own interests, but it's the friendly fire. Is it perhaps a fracture in the pen, or is it a lack of corn? The truly delicious part of this circus was seeing the luxury allies of the ruling party, the Green Party, and the Workers' Party, those parties that have less dignity than picking up a 20-peso bill from a urinal. What? Yesterday they decided not to, after all. Suddenly, the iron discipline of the Fourth Transformation looked weaker than the morals of any politician. Is there really a fracture? Nah, what we had here was a clear message from the mercenaries, from Morena's allies. Either you leave us our share in peace and even give us more budget, or we keep playing hard to get. It's the old technique of political extortion. The Workers' Party and Green Party members don't have ideology, they have hunger for public funds. And the fact that they were revealed right before the 2027 midterms only means one thing. The doctor is going to have to pull out her checkbook if she wants these little pets to keep wagging their tails. But don't worry, because today at the 7 o'clock Mass, our brand new presidential manager, Claudia Sheinbaum,
salió con su mejor cara de...
It didn't hurt me to say that rejection is something minor. With that icy smile, typical of someone who has other facts, she announced that Plan B is coming. How original. It's like watching a remake of a horror movie that we already had to endure last term with the jackass from Macuspana. Since they couldn't get the electoral reform through, now they're going in through the back door, through the sewer of secondary laws, where all they need is a simple majority. That's the one they do have, thanks to the proportional representatives and the political turncoats, to give a good trimming to the National Electoral Institute and the Electoral Tribunal. The narrative is the same as always, the same fodder every morning. We're going to take away the privileges from the golden bureaucrats. We're going to save money for the people. That's a lie. What they want isn't savings, it's control. They want to leave the Electoral Institute so weak and malnourished that they don't have the strength to arbitrate anything. They want to unite a National Electoral Institute that doesn't see, a National Electoral Institute that doesn't hear, and a National Electoral Institute that only repeats. Yes, ma'am, whatever you say, but don't try to make fools out of us. This whole show of taking the initiative to the floor knowing you were going to lose, it wasn't a miscalculation, it was an act of pure political exhibitionism. They wanted to portray the opposition as the villains who hate austerity. It's the perfect script for the perfect dictatorship, creating imaginary enemies to justify the total assault on institutions. Claudia Scheinbaum and her party are not interested in democracy, the people, or saving money, much less. If they wanted to save money, would they stop wasting it on projects that don't work or on supporting so many legislative parasites? What they are looking for is the consolidation of the single party. They want to go back to the days of the Partido Revolucionario Institucional in the 70s, but with a touch of populist arrogance and more social media. They want all the power and rewards for themselves, with the opposition serving only as window dressing. But let's talk about those rebels from the Green Party and the Workers' Party who acted so dignified yesterday. Look, in this pigsty, we know the fauna very well. It's not like they suddenly developed a democratic conscience overnight. What happens is that for these individuals, love for the country goes through their wallets. Who are these legislators who just said not now to chachis? Well, they're the classic budget fossils. First, we have the typical representatives who have been jumping from party to party since the Partido Revolucionario Institucional was just a tender child. Those who boast legislative experience on their resume, but in reality, what they have is a master's degree in how to survive the next 6-year term. Then we have the shadow negotiator, that representative from the Green Party who abstained yesterday. He didn't do it out of conviction, he did it because as part of his strategy, they promised him a delegation, an environment secretariat, so he could keep collecting kickbacks for cutting down trees, obviously, and they still haven't delivered on their promise. His vote isn't an opinion, it's a pawn ticket. And finally, we have the ideological remora of the Workers' Party. Those who talk endlessly about the proletariat while wearing suits that cost what a worker earns in 3 years. Did they vote against it because they feel that Morena is swallowing them alive and they're afraid of losing their registration in 2027? For them, the electoral reform was the death certificate for their small group's privileges. Don't be fooled. These people aren't breaking up the coalition, they're passing the hat around. As soon as they get offered a couple of top positions or secure their proportional representation seats for the next round, they'll start wagging their tails again and voting until the sky turns maroon. It's the cycle of life in the political jungle. The strong eat the weak, and the guy from the Green Party sells himself to the highest bidder. Now let's move on to what should really give us chills, Plan B. Since they couldn't burn the house down through the Constitution, now they're going to try to take away its foundations using secondary laws. Here they don't need anyone's permission, just their majority of followers. What do they really want to tear apart? The general law of electoral institutions and procedures. This is the crown jewel, this is where they're going to cut so that the National Electoral Institute is left as an empty shell. Selective austerity, do they want to eliminate the district boards? Saving money sounds nice, but what they really want is for there to be no one watching over the polling stations. In the most remote villages, where votes are bought with a sack of cement or a threat. Control over the voter registry, they're going after the operational structure. They want the government to have more say over who votes and who doesn't. If the National Electoral Institute doesn't have people to update the registry, well, how convenient is that? Will the dead vote again, like in the most glorious days of the dinosaur? The general law of political parties. This is where things get tricky, my friends. The goal is to suffocate the competition. Are they going to reduce public funding under the banner of morality? But watch out, Morena has the checkbook of the federal government in 23 states. They don't need the money from the National Electoral Institute, they have the social programs. They want the other parties to starve so they don't even have enough to print flyers. Meanwhile, Morena is everywhere, even in your soup, with the people's money. The Electoral Tribunal under scrutiny. If they don't like the referee, they take away his whistle. Plan B seeks to limit the powers of the magistrates so they can't cancel candidacies. Basically, they want any corcholata to be able to break the law, spend as much as they want, and for the court to have no teeth to punish them. Is it the law of the jungle disguised as a decree? Now, if you want something more practical and simple, here at La Pasilga, our noses are already well trained to smell a lie before it even leaves their fine throats. So I prepared this political dictionary from La Pasilga for you. Take out your notebook and write this down so that when you hear the doctor or her repeaters, you'll know exactly how they're trying to fool us. You have the translations of the Plan B tantrum, by the way. This is the Dictionary of Infamy, translating Plan B. What they say, the story, and what it really means in reality. Republican austerity at the National Electoral Institute. It means we're going to leave the referee so undernourished that he won't even have the strength to blow the whistle when it's needed. Eliminating the golden bureaucracy means we're going to fire the people who actually know how to organize elections so we can bring in our own servants of the nation to count the votes. Since we want to reduce funding for political parties, it means that we have the nation's checkbook and the budget for social programs. We're going to leave the opposition without a single peso so they can't even print their flyers. Streamlining the district structures means we're going to remove the eyes from the polling stations. In remote villages where there's no oversight, there's magic. The dead vote again, the ballot boxes fill up on their own. Guaranteeing the political rights of the candidates means we want our favorites to be able to break the law, spend millions, and campaign early without the court having the power to remove them from the race. Modernizing the electoral justice system means we're going to tie the judges' hands so they don't bother the regime's friends. I am the law and the court is my doormat. Bringing democracy closer to the people means we're going to turn elections into a popularity contest controlled from the palace, where the only one who decides who participates is the presidential finger. Simplifying operational processes means we're going to make everything so confusing and opaque that if there's fraud, no one can prove it. Opacity is the best friend of transformation. So there you have it, my dear piggies. The show goes on. Yesterday, the Democrats acted like voters. Today, they play the victims at the morning press conference. And tomorrow, they're going to give us a Plan B that'll leave us all staring at the ceiling. While they divide up what's left of the country, yesterday's show was just a distraction, a way to keep us quiet so we'd focus on the missing votes. Meanwhile, under the table, they're already sharpening their knives. It's not for Mexico's good, but for their own interests. They want a country with only one party, one voice, and one side. And meanwhile, here we are, wading through the same old mess as always, waiting to see what other brilliant idea they come up with to keep squeezing us dry. You see, my pigs, it's the same old cat, just rolled in a different mud. They sell us savings when what they're really after is impunity. They sell us democracy when what they're building is a monopoly on power. And while they argue about laws and regulations, we're the ones still footing the bill for the party. They fight over the spoils, and all we get are the scraps, and that's if we're lucky. Remember that here in La Pachilga, the pigsty of politics. The only difference between a left-wing politician, a right-wing one, and those who claim to be in the middle is which side of the table they're on. From where they steal from us, keep swallowing the fodder they throw at you, or better yet, open your eyes, and realize that in this game, the only ones who always lose are us. I'm Che Morano, and I'm leaving now because the stench of San Lazaro already made me nauseous, and I need to drink something to get through this bitter moment. Just seeing how they still want to make fools out of us. I'll read your comments and don't die, because then who would pay the taxes to support these scumbags? Don't let yourselves be fooled, because Plan B comes with B for tantrum. Goodbye, goodbye. This is the pigsty, the pig pen of politics with Che Morano.